Gestalt. Wait, no. Gestalt. Gestalt means an organized whole that is more than the sum of its parts. Practitioners who use Gestalt believe that they can help clients see this in themselves. It is an experiential type of therapy used as an alternative response to psychodynamic theory, which focuses more on past trauma. Gestalt, on the other hand, focuses more on present moment work. They use this to guide clients toward freedom, awareness, and self-direction, created on the premise that individuals must be understood in the context of their ongoing relationship to the environment. Gestalt therapy is also phenomenological, meaning that there is a focus on the client's perceptions of reality, and also existential because it is grounded in the notion that people are always in the process of becoming, remaking, and discovering themselves. One of Gestalt therapy's main tenets is that the therapist comes from a place of unconditional acceptance. This is because they believe that forcing someone to change paradoxically results in further distress and fragmentation. Gestalt was the first type of therapy to incorporate having the client do all of their own seeing, feeling, sensing, and interpreting, as opposed to waiting passively for the therapist to provide them with insights and answers. It focuses on using emotion as a route to both cognitive and behavioral change, and encourages clients to stay with their present moment by moment experiencing. They facilitate this process by 1. Moving the client from environmental support to self-support, and 2. Reintegrating the disowned parts of one's personality. Gestalt therapists place no superiority on a particular value of a person. They instead focus on which aspects of the individual is experiencing in the given moment. These are the aspects of the client's presentation that are often out of his or her awareness. They are usually pointed out by looking at nonverbal cues. Now let's look at phenomenological inquiry. It builds on present moment work with the dialogue between the client and the therapist. They do this by asking more what and how questions, but rarely why. Asking why puts people into the past to search for answers and plays more into their dominant negative thought patterns. Instead, Gestalt therapists ask things like, what is going on now? And what are you experiencing as you talk about that? There is also something called unfinished business. It manifests itself in feelings such as resentment, hatred, pain, anxiety, grief, and guilt. These all create unnecessary emotional debris that trashes present moment awareness. Let's go over some techniques that deal with this. Introjection is the tendency to accept one's beliefs and standards without assimilating them to make them congruent. Projection, on the other hand, is the reverse of introjection. In projection, we disown certain aspects of ourselves by assigning them to the environment. And finally, deflection is the process of distraction or veering off so that it is difficult to maintain a sustained sense of contact. The way we use our language is also important for a Gestalt therapist to understand. For example, depersonalization occurs when the client uses words like it and you. This takes away responsibility from themselves. Also, using disqualifiers like maybe, perhaps, and I guess take away your own personal power. The last technique I want to tell you guys about is the empty chair technique. It's one of my favorites. This is where you get the client to externalize a part of themselves. They can have a conversation with their past self or someone they have unfinished business with, like an ex. This reenactment helps to resolve conflict from the past so it doesn't infect their present moment.
Namely, that we have become phobic towards pain and suffering. Let me repeat that word. We have become phobic towards pain and suffering. Anything that's not fun or pleasant is to be avoided. So we run away from any frustration that might be painful and try to shortcut it. And the result is a lack of growth. When I talk about the readiness to encounter unpleasantness, I certainly do not mean an education towards masochism. On the contrary. A masochist is a person who's afraid of pain and trains himself to tolerate it. I'm talking about the suffering that goes along with growing up. I'm talking about facing honestly unpleasant situations and this is very much linked up with the Gestalt approach. I don't want to talk too much about the phenomenon of Gestalt. However, the main idea about Gestalt is that a Gestalt is a whole, a complete, in itself resting whole. As soon as we cut up a Gestalt, we have bits and pieces and not a whole anymore. I mean, a Gestalt wants to be completed. If the Gestalt is not completed, we are left with unfinished situations. In these unfinished situations, press and press and press and want to be completed. Let's say, if you had a fight, you really are angry with that guy, want to take revenge. This need for revenge will nag and nag and nag until you have become even with him. And so there are 1,000 unfinished Gestalten. How to get hold of this Gestalt is very simple. These Gestalten will emerge. They will come to the surface. Always the most important Gestalt will emerge first. We don't have to dig a la Freud into the deepest unconscious. We have to become aware of the obvious. If we understand the obvious, everything is there. And the neurotic is a person who doesn't see the obvious. So what we're trying to do in Gestalt therapy is to understand the word now, the present, the awareness, and see what happens in the now. And to understand the now will take you anything from 4 weeks to 20 years. The second point I have to make in regard to our therapy is the word how. In previous centuries, we asked why. We tried to find causes, reasons, excuses, rationalizations, and we thought if we can change the causes, we can change the effect. In our electronic age, we don't ask why anymore, we ask how. We investigate the structure. And if we understand the structure, then we can change the structure. And the structure with which we are most interested in is the structure of our life script. The structure of our life script, often called karma, fate, and we are not very much aware that we are writing our life script. A life script which is mostly taken up with self-torture, futile self-improvement games, achievements, and so on. So what we want to do is to reorganize our life script. And the means and ways to do it can be understood to quite an extent. Right now, interested in meeting some of you, and I have to admit, I have a very bad memory for names. And I have to know a person pretty well or have a shock or great joy when I meet this person so that I can recall the names. In order to work, I like and I brag about the 6 components of my work. To work, I need my skill, the so-called hot seat, which in this case is very beautiful, the empty chair, which has the task of taking up roles which we have disowned, other people which we need to understand our life script. We need something that is absent. I hope maybe today we don't need it. That is Kleenex, my cigarettes, the ashtray, and then I'm in business.
I think it's anger.
I think it's anger.
All right. So this is the angry part of you.
Yes.
And that's causing, it's kind of erupting through.
Yeah.
Causing this feeling of incongruence.
It's making me feel like I'm not being my true self or just fully me.
You're being inauthentic.
Yes, I'm being, you're right. I'm being inauthentic with myself.
All right. So let's separate out this this angry part of you.
Okay.
All right. So here, where you're sitting, I want you to be James.
Okay.
But in that chair, I want you to imagine, to the best of your ability, that the angry part of you is seated there.
Okay.
All right. So it's really only going to see things from that perspective. It is the angry part.
Okay.
It's not the whole. It's just a part.
Okay.
All right. And I'm going to have you move back and forth as needed, so you can have a conversation between the whole, James, and the angry part of you.
Okay.
So let's start with your side. So the angry part of you is now seated here.
Okay.
So I want you to turn toward the angry part and say what's on your mind.
The way that you're making me feel is it's really jittery and like I can't do my job and like I really can't interact with people the way that I want to, because it's just going to explode out on them and I can't do that. Like as a black man, that's just unacceptable. I can't just go off the handle and start yelling and fussing and doing all of those things that people deem as unacceptable in society, and that's what you're making me feel like I need to do.
All right, so that's a powerful message you've communicated to the angry part of you. So I want you to think, how's the angry part of you going to respond to that? And then switch seats and respond back to James. Make sense?
It makes sense. So James, let's just be honest. You need me in your life. I am that part of you that you never let out, and I can actually be a force of good for you. Because right now, people are walking over you, and you're not seeing that. And it's partly because you're just not letting me out, and you're afraid of what everybody else is going to say if you get upset, which is crazy. You can actually use me to your benefit.
So the angry part of you also has a powerful message, a very rational message. If you can, try to deliver that same message, except think about how the angry part of you is really going to be seated in that chair and how the angry part of you is really going to move and the volume of your voice. What's the angry part going to do as it communicates that rational message?
So, James, I need you to pay attention and I need you to listen. Because I can be a force of good for you. You need to let me out so that people will stop walking all over you. Yes, it's scary that people don't understand that when you are angry, you're not necessarily going to harm them. They need to realize that they are doing something wrong and you're not letting people know that. It needs to change now.
All right, so the angry part of you a little more authoritative there. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Kind of pointing and being very direct.
Yes.
So now James has his opportunity to respond. So come back over here. And think about that lecture that the angry part of you just gave to you. How are you going to respond to that?
I don't think that people are walking over me. I think that people are just being who they are, and I don't see it as a problem. So I understand that I need to, or you want me to, use you for a force of good, but I fear what I would do if I let you out 100%. And I don't want people to be disappointed in me, or fear me, or not want to be around me, because I am angry.
All right, so now James, again, a powerful and a rational response to the angry part. Does the angry part have a comeback for this?
I think he does.
Try it?
If we can try it.
Okay, let's try it. Okay. So remember his temperament's a little different, right? His temperament's going to be a little angrier.
So, James, you don't have to let me out 100%. You can let me out 30%, 25%, even 75%, so that you can get your point across. So, yeah, it's scary, but it has to happen.